Getting better every.
Good evening, welcome to the July 24, 2023 meeting of the Hampden Board of Selectmen. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are meeting in the Board of Selectmen office of the Hampden Town Hall, as another group is using the auditorium for their meeting tonight. We are recording the meeting as well as broadcasting over Zoom. Is anybody else recording the meeting? Seeing none, let us move on. We have 4 sets of minutes to review: June 12th, June 20th, June 26th, and July 10th.
The Tea Party.
Yeah, I mean, can we be consistent with our font here? Let me seriously.
I would change hers, but
Motion to approve June 12th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. June 20th. Action came to give us an update. And that was the major part of the meeting.
Occasion. With approval.
Oh, I haven't done yet. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
June 26th. We took a tour of Academy Hall. Tracy Dempsey gave us a stormwater presentation. Judy Brewer.
it's gotta be
No,
open.
it's
just
gotta
a
be
tad.
open, gotta be open, John.
Oh, done?
Maybe just hair, at least somewhat, please.
Oh, because, yeah.
Yeah,
Local meeting. Dalton is recording, by the way.
Yeah.
thank you, Dalton. Couple of conservation restrictions, actually, we're discussing tonight.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, July 10th.
Well, this is you two guys. Who knows what you did?
Spelled allegiance wrong.
Well, the minutes are careful. Really good.
Yeah,
Was this
right.
a 10-minute meeting? Because we just zip right along, Craig, right? Yeah.
I mean, you talked for 10 minutes alone, though.
I wasn't there.
I like the part, what was the meeting when Bob was asking for someone to handle the tech part? And I'm watching the video and you were like disappearing.
Somebody's calling me from the hallway.
Yeah. Mm.
Did we ever set the date for Ken Germani to come back? I thought they were gonna come in today, right?
Yeah, he was a bit unavailable, so we pushed it to the next meeting.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. And Don wasn't at the meeting, so he's abstaining from the. Whew, wow, 4 sets. Nice job, Pam. And Jane, Okay, so, dog update. There has been an issue with, and I don't know if Shelley's coming in because of, this isn't really resolved at this point. This is the shaggy dog at 17 Raymond, I believe. Bob, and I know you had a conversation with Shelley as well about this. So the dog has been boarded by the animal inspector for the past month or so. She is having no luck in getting the owner to respond to either certified letters, visits to the house with an officer, and from what Shelley is saying, clearly the owner is at home at that time, but just not responding to the door. So Shelley's looking for some guidance on what is our next step? What options does the town have? And she has reached out the road, we talked about this before. And one possibility is district court. You know, that the house is, I believe, in pre-foreclosure status right now. What's gonna be happening? So I'm looking for basically, at this point, authorization from the board to have town council engage with the animal inspector, animal control officer, to take the next step as necessary.
Is this this is
The
the
Soul Husky,
the
the
Soul Chicken Dog?
the Allen Tree Chicken Killer, yeah.
Okay, okay, all right.
Please do not use that for the title.
Yeah.
So she doesn't want the dog then? If it's Shelley still has the dog, is that
And
right?
apparently not.
Shelley has the dog and is
Shelley has
caring
the
for it
dog
and feeding it.
and trying to return it, and the owner will not.
I mean, I guess we
Respond.
need to figure out what the next steps are then, right?
Right, and there are several steps, but the problem is, the one where, and Shelley says she knows of someone interested in taking the dog,
Mhm.
but if it comes through the town, we assume liability if something happens down the road. And we need, you know, say the dog went to person B and then did something, the town might have a
And she
liability.
can't just give this person the dog? I mean, is that,
She
you know,
doesn't actually
like
own
they
the dog.
adopt it, you know.
She doesn't own it though,
whatever,
she
yeah,
hasn't got a
doesn't,
clear
yeah.
title to it, basically,
Right,
the car, yeah.
right.
So,
And I think the woman will be leaving town shortly.
it could be depending on what the situation with the house is too.
Yes.
Can the
But again,
dog,
it's legally, and,
sorry,
and the other thing is, so Shelley's been boarding, feeding, whatever, it's actually running her account dry.
unexpected expense.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Can Dakin take the dog? As a
that's
surrender?
also gonna be an option, but again, to get a formal recommendation from Rose,
Yeah,
or these authorized,
I'll move approval.
okay.
Second.
The budget, it's fairly fat right now,
Yeah,
right, so, yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna vote.
All in
Aye,
favor of
aye.
authorizing Bob and the animal control officer to engage with town council.
Right,
All right.
okay.
If there is necessity to go to court though, Bob, bring that back to us, please. Okay. Duplicate utility poles, there still are some around town. We thought you were taking care of the rest of them.
Yeah,
With your success with the first one,
I even found someone to take the first one.
yeah, one of the town people, yeah, highway
Do they want a
department.
dog?
Yeah, right. Telephone pole and a dog,
well,
logical. So I mean, they're all over, heck,
Right,
at my
the-
parents' house, there's one still
yeah,
there.
the issue on the double poles is a statewide issue.
Yeah.
For years, been for many years. A lot of towns have complained about it. They've tried to get legislation passed to fine the utility companies if they don't take the poles down. They have not been successful, but they did pass a law that says they have to remove them in 90 days, but there is no repercussions if they don't. And so currently, in Hampden, we have 59 double poles. 3 of them are held by Verizon, and the Verizon representative has offered to work with us to remove those 3, which would leave us with 56. And it's a process, and the process is that each person lying on the pole has to be removed separately in order. There's a certain order, and it takes forever to do it. But what I couldn't understand is when they come out to do like they did this leaning pole, well, the guy's out here, he can't do like 3 or 4 of them, he just does the one on that one pole and says, see you later, so.
3 or 4 poles, you mean, not
Yeah,
3 or 4
right.
lines?
Yeah, 3, you don't have 3 or 4, do 3 or 4 different poles.
Down the street 20 feet and pick
Yeah,
care of the next one?
yeah, you know, but.
But again, he's already got, a flagger for that area there, does he have a detail for the next area, yeah,
Yeah, so,
bit of a racket.
yeah, so anyhow, that's where we stand, but I think it's worthwhile pursuing it, and I mean, it's, all the towns say the same thing, it's an eyesore, most towns, some of them become dangerous because they're not, set right, because they got the new pole next to them, so. but there's 15,468 in the state.
But I think the
Awesome.
majority of the ones we have here are down to, the power company's done their part.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so we're down to the cable, the phone, the fiber on the cable,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
so-
yeah, so,
It depends on where it is, yeah.
so we'll
And
we'll
it'll have
work,
implications for the fiber project, if we
Right.
don't get them.
right. So we'll,
Now, is that the
we'll work
lowest,
at
what's
it
the lowest
slowly.
one on the pole typically?
Telephone, right?
Telephone?
If we get them all down at one time, we could build a town log cabin.
There we go, recycle.
Maybe that big bonfire you talked about for the one, it'll be done in time for the 150th. We'll collect them all.
All right, we're on to double poles.
If they're soaked, they'll
That's-
go up quickly, yeah.
That's the double pole
All
update.
right, thank
Can I
you.
ask what a double pole is? What's a double?
A double pole is when a telephone pole gets damaged or is,
Oh, so
old.
you actually see two poles?
Right, so
I guess
they
I've
replace the new one,
A lot
they
of
put the
times,
new one in, they
But
leave
they
the
don't
old
take
one
the
there.
old one out.
a lot of times they did a height change, so all of a sudden you'll
Yeah.
see
Yeah, or a
they
height
replaced the
change, right.
40s with 50s.
Okay,
all.
I have seen that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
A lot on Elm Street.
Yeah.
All right, so building inspector, I asked Wendell to stop by. Wendell,
Hi, would you like me to sit up there?
you wanna be
Why
on
not?
camera?
Do you want me to be on camera?
Wendell's
You're the
back,
boss.
Wendell's back from overseas.
I'll sit next to my boss.
And we was on official town business reviewing building overseas, right?
Ambassador to Italy.
Yeah.
I took over for Bob.
Thank you.
It was great. You guys had a lot of rain.
Buongiorno. Yeah.
Mark did a great job.
It was hot over there.
The washouts. It was warm, but not like it is there now.
Where'd you go?
Tuscany, Rome, London, which isn't in Italy, I know, but I
Yeah,
started there.
Mhm.
It was great.
Been
The
there.
weather was beautiful.
Mhm.
been there often.
And then I got back here and my driveway's washed out and I could only imagine how the rest of the town is. So.
Mhm.
But I talked to Mark and he really weathered the storm pretty good, I guess, back here.
Right. So just a quick update, your department, here we are starting the new fiscal year. I know we did a fee update,
Exactly.
starting July 1st.
Right.
Right. How do you see the building market going forward? Are we still obviously we have some projects, we know that they're doing construction on Chapin. They're talking about another little group of houses on Thresher as
Right.
well. Does that represent the bulk of building in town?
We have a bunch on the board. There's another additional 4 or 5 on Highland. There's a couple guys building houses right now on Ames Road. Seems like any little piece of property that comes up, swamp or not.
There's hope for behind you, Don.
Long
Oh.
driveway.
But that's the way it is. I get a lot of calls in my office for stuff that's been vacant land for years, for a reason.
Right.
And they're interested, and you try to, point them to the GIS and let them learn how to use the wetland map if
Right.
at all possible, but the building's still going on. People move to Hampden, houses go out on the market and they go off the market in 2 weeks, or some of them sit, but they're just asking for the right money, I guess.
I do see that Hampden is still attractive. I was talking to a realtor last week, and only 10 homes on the market in Hampden, and 16 in Wolverhampton.
Really, that's
I
nothing.
think 5 of them came on the market in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, cause normally it's usually just probably 5 or less, and
Yeah.
they usually evaporate.
I think what it was, they saw a hot market, a couple went on and then they were going, so everybody decided, let's jump on the train during the summer.
But I think that's, the housing market, even though interest rates have gone up a little bit, hasn't really stopped people, and cost of material has gone up a little bit,
Right.
but it hasn't stopped people. People still wanna have their own houses, and Hampton's a great town to live in. We know that.
Any issues in town we should know about, or everything's going well?
I was trying to think of anything like on the radar, and really the only thing I can think of is we're having, and you guys, I think, have met with, an energy company that wanted to put like energy storage systems by the power lines.
They call
Are you familiar?
I know what you're talking about, I don't think they've come to us to
No.
talk about it.
I know they had contacted me, and I don't know if they came before you guys are planning. We don't have anything in our bylaws that covers that. It has to be ancillary to a solar project, so we don't have that yet, but
Is that
I
something
thi-
we need to add to a bylaw then?
I think that in the future, more communities, a lot of communities in the Commonwealth have that bylaw. So now they're just testing the water from town to town to see who bites.
On the overhead transmission lines or?
Well, they're kind of off the side of the transmission
No, but I mean,
lines.
in that pathway? in
That would be, I think, one of the places they
I'm
would do
surprised they
it.
don't do it at the junction, you know, where they put the,
Transfers.
Right.
well, I mean, the one off of Allen Street, yeah.
I know they had approached me a couple of years ago, and I could have sworn they either went before you guys or the planning board to feel it out, because we have no bylaw for it. But I think that, you know, there are these big lithium battery banks, like we're gonna have at the landfill.
Right.
And it's to even out the flow of electricity during the peaks and valleys, because now everybody's working at home, so they're just using power. They're really big money installations, but fire has to be completely trained. They just did a training at the Borrego site on the end of Potash, because they have an ESS. And the company offers the training to fire, to go, but basically, you know, those lithium batteries, once they start, you really need to know how to deal with them.
Right.
So in your mind, in your opinion, not having a bylaw, does that hurt us as far as regulations go?
I don't think it hurts us, I just think it's something that the planning board or your board is gonna have to explore. Cause I don't feel like this stuff's going away. And Hampden is in one of those great spots where we have transmission lines running all through the place. I feel like it's only a matter of time before National Grid wants.
Right, but clearly, like Greg said, without it being in zoning, it's not allowed.
Right,
Only in a solar facility.
if it's not
because that's in
listed,
your
it's
solar
not
bylaw.
allowed.
Okay.
So I've directed them to either talk to the ZBA or planning with regards to this. And maybe they can work out a path forward.
Sure.
But realistically, we're just doing the normal stuff. We just finished our church inspections. You know, restaurants and bars will be coming up. So there's just the normal stuff that we do all the time. And then,
We passed that bylaw for accessory apartment. Have you seen anybody knocking on your door about that?
not yet.
No,
I don't know if it's still being, is it still being vetted by the Attorney General's office or?
probably, but I would think, like I say,
We
since
haven't
we
received
patterned it
anything back.
after Wilbraham, I would think it would go pretty well.
Well, my hope is that if we do that, then the people that have them will have a path to legitimacy, because I certainly won't penalize them for trying to do the right thing, you
Right.
know, and we do have a few of these situations come up every couple of years, every year, where people have the bootleg in-law apartment because their mom and dad were older, they wanted to have them live with them, or vice versa. So it'll be nice to have a pathway forward for them.
I noticed today that in some of the official documents that he doesn't have the correct title. He is a building commissioner. He has upgraded his credentials.
Several years ago.
And so we're gonna have to, he doesn't bother with that, but I think it's
New
important.
letterhead, new shirt,
There
new
aren't
business
very many
cards. and-
communities in the region that have a
Oh,
building
no, not
commissioner.
new shirts, please. I get a lot of guff because of the shirts.
We saw the fancy
No.
shirts the fire department had when they were in.
That's a website glitch, and we gotta update a few things on the website.
Yeah.
I took the laserfish training today, so I'm sorry if I'm not all there right now. That was 3 hours of computer. But that'll be a nice tool.
Didn't
still-
sink in then, did it?
Excuse
It
me?
didn't sink in, did it?
Oh, I just wanna get my hands on it.
Yeah,
you
we're
know,
still looking for
'cause,
that tech
yeah.
person from our board to help people with that type of
We
thing.
do, we need a champion.
Yes, we do. Don, anybody in mind? I'll take a nomination.
Just do it, that's all.
Go ahead, Craig, you got it.
He's
Endorsed
a
by the
busy
board.
man.
Okay,
So did you absorb it all in 3 hours?
I don't think it's gonna be horrible, but I think the hands-on is gonna be
The doing it.
more how I attack it. You know, you can see all the controls, but it's based on Microsoft Word kind of, so you're still dealing with files and pages. I don't think it's,
It's just
for a
organization.
semi-retired old carpenter, I think I can get it, so I don't know who doesn't want to, but.
Carpenter with all his fingers, that counts for something, so.
Mm,
You would
good
know, John.
doctors, good doctors, John.
Great.
There's a carpenter before power tools.
Yes,
Anything else?
we're in a good spot.
Great. All right, well, thank you to you, thank you to Karen, great department.
Thank you.
So-
We try hard, we're user-friendly.
Okay. Any more questions for this witness?
I have no questions for this witness.
Reserve the right to call him back.
You do.
Okay,
Anytime.
Thanks, Wanda.
Thanks.
thank you, sir. All right, for those who would like to preserve our community, we're gonna have a discussion with Chairman of the Board, Chairman of the Committee, Doug. Put on your CPA hat.
Here we go, following the commissioner. Yeah.
You just want the commissioner title, is that what it is?
No, I just want the shirt.
Wow, with the money we have now, I mean, seriously, all getting shirts. So, Craig had a couple thoughts for CPA articles, and you're here as well. I know you had a couple things coming forward. So I thought a general discussion.
Well, Craig and I ran into each other a week or two ago, and Craig brought up a couple of issues, and I said, sure, let's talk about it. So,
But we were enjoying our local parks. That's when we ran into each other, so. But we were talking, and one area in town that's always been an eyesore to me is the pond on Mill Road. And it's, years ago, it was done, parking benches cleaned up, but the last 10 years that I recall, parking benches are in the water, it's all overgrown, uneven land there. I think we can maybe utilize that as open space, recreation, and work on preserving that area, revamping it, coming up with some type of layout where people can actually picnic there or sit there.
Is it spreading because of silting in? Is that the thing? I mean, we're going back 20, 25 years with our booth and stuff.
yeah, after I ran into Craig, I was thinking about it, and it was probably 20 or 25 years ago that it was dredged.
Yeah.
Because that's actually a drainage that goes out the ditch and then goes along Mill Road and then under,
Right.
there's a culvert that goes underneath
Down
Gristmill
to Gristmill,
Lane,
yeah.
eventually comes down to the river. And I think Art was able to shoehorn the dredging into the fact that it was a drainage, it was part of the drainage system for that area of town. And I don't know if you were thinking in terms of that size of a project or.
I wasn't thinking that extreme. I mean, the body of water is already there. We could do something and revisit that landscape that's usable there. It's very, uneven right now. You have the ditches where people park on the side of the road, so we can maybe make some straight line parking roadside, parallel parking. Get the benches out of the water, repurpose them, maybe put a picnic table up on the land and then have it continually mowed or upkept. And maybe even Parks and Rec would want to use it for some type of outings and recreation.
But if it's underwater, those things, that means it's silted in, which means it's also not a very good purpose for the dry hydrant as well, because the depth's not there.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
a
very
concern.
deep, I mean, it's.
Well, not anymore, that's
I think the
the
dry
problem.
hydrant's still underwater there, if I recall.
Right, but it could be better, and obviously we have Ted here as well, maybe he's got some memory of it, but.
Yeah, that's
It used to
filled
be a
in,
lot deeper, yeah.
it's filled in
It used
quite
to be a lot deeper.
Right, but I mean, now, and I think that's why it's spreading, as Craig said, if it's now covering the, the benches at whatever that the Lions Club put in, and they were up a bit, that wasn't like,
They were
level.
removed from the
right,
water.
so
Yeah.
it's obviously been, because it's silting in. Do you think there's a possibility that, and to your point about making it more accessible for people, restoring that part, do you think that's something, if we did the same type of approach with a dredging for drainage, that'd be something we could start the process?
You
If
could,
it worked 20 years ago, because that was the whole drainage system for, along
but
Mill Road.
depending on that 20 years, if you're counting into the early 90s, it was late 90s that all the Concom rules changed. So you may not be able to now because of their fight on that flow of the Scantic, which goes to the Connecticut, which goes to Long Island Sound, and they're all over that. So you may have a hard time this time.
They want to restrict it more, or they want to restore it?
They're trying to restore
Right now it's
Long Island
restricted,
Sound and the lower Connecticut River,
right,
and the Scantic's a major tributary to it.
right, so now it's restricted from helping the Scantic, wouldn't they wanna restore its natural flow?
Its natural flow is supposed to be in this current riverbank.
Right.
In this current stream and not through the pond. So, you can argue the case,
Yeah.
but you may have a hard time.
Ted, there was a Supreme Court decision within the last couple of months
Yes,
dealing with that.
Yeah.
That,
and that may change it too.
right,
Yeah.
there was a more restrictive reading of that
Oh, yeah.
regulation.
Of the waters of the US thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they won a case where some guy wanted to build on swampland in one's case.
Mhm. But to the point of that property, I mean, it's town property,
Mhm.
so, I mean, generally speaking, CPA funds can be applied to it. I mean, obviously, you
Yep.
have to work on the specifics of it, but as a general proposition, it would qualify.
Yeah, and if, to Ted's point, if we can't do anything with the body of water, we can still work on physical landscape there and make it more appealing and usable, Great spot to go, read a book, fish, I don't know, is there fish in there? Is it stocked?
Kids used to fish.
People
there.
have caught, dace and
Yeah.
stuff like that
Mhm.
have gotten in there or someone's dumped in.
And it-
And back a week ago, you had flow for a half a day.
Mhm.
There was actually water running on the Mill Road.
And the
Through
other
the
thought is,
channel?
too,
Right.
it's,
Through the channel?
Yeah, through the channel for a short time when we had high water, but it didn't last long.
and the other thought is too, if it's cleaned up, the water's not very deep right now.
Mhm.
It does ice over in the winter, and I have seen people skating on it. And Parks and Rec, this is a whole nother topic, they've talked about trying to do a hockey rink in the past. So maybe that could, just throwing things out there, could facilitate some type of recreation in the winter.
What I would suggest is you either get DUP Springfield or one of our guys local that knows it well and have them come before you someday and talk to them. Gary or someone like that knows it.
There had been some discussion years back of coming in from Bayberry, because that property
Yeah.
fronts on Mill and Bayberry. And I don't know, it's probably, probably a couple hundred feet there. But there was discussion about having an area to pull in to park, because there really isn't good parking on Mill if you're talking
Right.
about skating and whatnot.
Right, you couldn't put a lot of cars, if you did a
Yeah.
couple parallels, that's about it.
Right, but you could probably put, 3 or 4, maybe 5 cars,
That's
In there.
another option there too, I didn't even know that.
How is that land accessible? Is it a right of way or is it town-owned land?
As far as I know, it's town-owned right up to the street, yeah.
So how is this applied to CPA though? I mean, how would you get money from CPA for this type of project?
Well, we can put it under either recreation or open space. Most likely it'd be recreation, because CPA encourages passive recreation. They don't
Right.
want, they don't want the artificial turf, they
Right.
don't wanna pay for stadiums, they want, and they specifically exclude commercial type activities on the properties. But we're not talking about anything of that nature. I mean, this would be more in the nature of a town park.
Yeah.
And there's no issue that I'm aware of in terms of eligibility for CPA funds for that type of a project.
It would kind of like mimic what they did in Wilbraham on, was it Main Street there?
Rubicon?
So Rubicon there, they redid that, opened it up a little bit, and they skate on it, play hockey in the winter there.
I guess a question for Ted then. If they wanted to, I'm gonna say reimagine around it with moving the benches, et cetera, how much oversight would they have from conservation or something like that?
If you're just, doing some grading along the road and moving benches and stuff, I think it wouldn't be a big deal. But once you get into the water, of course, we've got our own town 25-foot no disturb. It's our own bylaw. And boy, you probably don't have much more than 25 feet between it and Mill Road. So it's actually probably, most of it's in our no disturb zone.
Sure, but if we wanted to take the bench out of the water, would that be a better thing than?
Yeah,
so-
you could do that, yeah.
Okay.
But to do any other grading and stuff, we have our own bylaw.
Maybe we should revisit that bylaw.
Yeah, but it's 25 feet. And that's from mean high water. So if it's up, it's not what it was 2 years ago when it was a drought. You're now that much farther back.
So is this something you'd like the board to present this as a CPA project? Is it something
Well, I
working
wanna
with Park maybe?
put the feelers out
or-
there as an idea, and then, you know, if there was, seemed like it was a reasonable use of CPA funds, then yeah, I would think the board would sponsor it.
We could, or Parks could, you know, if we wanted to get the number together, our board or that, you know.
I'd say we could start with our board, and then,
Okay.
you know, if it's something that Parks wanted to use, and they wanted to maintain it afterwards. might be-
Could you use those funds to hire someone like Gary to review it? Gary,
CPA funds, sure.
because if you wanted to do anything serious, you're gonna have to do something like that. You're gonna have to get someone in there professional.
Right, like Gary at Pete Levesque, somebody who knows the.
Yeah, people that, yeah.
Okay, what are, projects?
Right next to Gary's house, I'm sure he'd be willing to.
Yeah,
You know,
he
give us a
does
good
look right
price.
there.
Sure, no travel time, no gas money, good, keep the price down.
So, the other project that Doug and I were kicking around is Cumberland Farms. Nobody's buying it, nobody wants to use it, they remediated the property. So should we give it another look at the project that was presented, what, 5 years ago now?
Probably 4 or 5 years.
But wasn't the path, I don't know, it was before or after the ownership change, that they would sell it only if we didn't use it for,
I think that was before
People?
ownership change, yeah, and that was before remediation.
yeah.
That's why Cumberland Farms was still the owner. They were insisting that we not use it for any recreational activity,
Which is what we would want it for.
including just a parking area, which is what we had proposed. They weren't willing to.
Or just access across the river there.
And that was the other thing, be able to get across the river. to
So
other pieces.
my thoughts are now that, you know, it's remediated, the owners are different, you know, maybe it's time to revisit that conversation and see where we can go with it. Because again, it's an eyesore, we're talking about taking out double poles.
Yeah.
We got a vacant building there that just looks hideous.
Yeah.
Cumberland Farms was willing to do it $1.
Yeah,
They wanted to get rid of the property.
But the restrictions were so much, you couldn't do anything with it.
That's right.
again, that's why I think we should revisit that conversation now since
Yeah.
everything's changed.
See, yeah.
Who owns it now?
Wasn't it someplace over across the pond?
Well, the people who bought out
Little-
Cumberland's,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay, so.
So they still own Cumberland,
entire-
that's new
the
owner.
entire-
Yeah.
But there's a
Only
US
corporation.
headquarters still in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And I believe we should ask Wendell was here because he was in communication with them about bringing it up to
Yeah,
code.
the realtor, I
Safety
think Bill
problems, yeah.
Fitzgerald, was the one who reached out to
That's
us.
But it's got a sign out front, it's
The one discouraging thing is just my thought, it's like there's so little business land in town. I hate to take something out of the inventory. I know you're saying, yes, but they've had the opportunity
yeah.
to do something for a number of years, although the cleanup has only been certifiable 3 or 4 years, Ted, at
I think
most.
less
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. so-
And we have personally never got a clear title on that,
Right.
that says it's told, we have never received that from DEP.
Mhm.
I had a conversation with him, right at the end of last week, and he said he didn't think that, it would ever be bought privately. In addition to some environmental issues, the footprint is restricted.
Right, you have to build on
So-
what's there, so you have to rehab.
Yeah, and water and septic, it's just, I mean, there's a reason that it hasn't sold as a commercial property. I certainly understand, and we only have a limited number of commercial parcels in town. But I'm not sure I would consider this a viable commercial parcel.
Yeah.
Because if it were, somebody would have done something with
Right.
it. I mean, if you recall, you know, we had very quickly looked at it when we were siting the new police station. And quickly moved away from it because it was within the flood zone.
So yeah, that might take some more work, but
Well, do you want, rather than us, we still have, or who was on that committee? Was it Don Collins, Rick, yourself?
I think Gary was on it, and well, I'm forgetting somebody.
Want to like, see if there's any interest in them kicking it back together, working with Craig, and
Sure, I'll see Rick.
CPA can afford the dollar?
well, if that's still on the table.
Well, I'm assuming, you know, the property's been on the market. I mean, they will know from what activity or inactivity, you know, what the chances are of actually turning it into something. I mean, it is an eyesore, even with the, you know, boarding it up and
Mowing.
cleaning it up a little bit, but I mean, it's still, you know, a decrepit piece of property.
The outstanding CPA stuff, what do we have right now? I mean, obviously, we just passed the playground thing, and I don't know,
Yeah.
I haven't seen any activity out my back window.
I haven't seen
Right, looking right at
anything
it.
from the school on it,
No.
anything further, no, I haven't either, so.
No.
There's the purchase piece of what was authorized.
Can't close it to,
Unfortunately, we left off the authorization article to purchase the property. We put the article on to appropriate the money,
Right.
not to purchase. So we have to purchase the property before we can actually complete the
It's on our list for the fall. So,
Yeah. I know that the land trust is looking at possibly acquiring some property up at the very end of North, I believe, as a way to actually have a better right of way up to Mount Vision.
Well, Judy was here earlier. She was talking about some property right about 300 North Road to get to the entrance part of the trail.
Yeah.
Nothing at the top, I don't think,
Okay, then I may be off
Yeah.
on the,
you know, at the entrance
But-
there.
you know, that's
And
still,
it
that's
may
still
be
very
2 or
much
3
in the discussion stage.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no actual proposal for that yet.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm not aware of anything. I don't think we have any other outstanding projects that we're waiting to, you know, be completed and.
That's what I was
finalized.
wondering. I know
Yeah, I
sometimes
think so.
you'll call, I need a signature, we need to wrap this up. So as far as you know, we're pretty well wrapped up on ones from
I've
years
got
past.
a report, every year I have to file a report with the state, a CP3 form. And it's an update of new projects and the status of previously reported projects, so that, you know, it's a continual process of, you know, building that database. You know, a few years ago, they put a requirement in that anything involving purchase of land or conservation restrictions, we now have to enter the book and page. So I actually had spoken with Rose at town meeting about getting a couple of those, just to complete those filings, but, I mean, that's,
One project I'd like to bring forward, and probably work with Connie Witt on that, would be the statue of the town commons, if you will. Noticing at Memorial Day that some of the plaques on the side, you could barely read the names on them.
Yeah.
And I think maybe getting them redone, certainly in my mind, would qualify under historic preservation,
sure, we spent CPA money on that
or for to have it pointed
15
at.
years ago.
Yeah, so. reach out to Connie, see if
I know
something-
Connie was going to have the same person who had done that previous conservation work, was gonna have that person come and do some personal work for her. So I'm sure, you know, while he's in town, if I remember, the guy's from Connecticut somewhere.
Right. And then Craig, you had some concern about, you know, the state of some of the cemetery
The cemetery when we were up
Could
there
that-
a couple
right.
weeks ago.
after the Boston Tea Party ceremony. You know, could that qualify for, you know, historic preservation, whichever?
Absolutely, we've spent CPA money up, you know, both cemeteries.
Sure. Now, Bob has also mentioned that maybe part of our ongoing meeting with different boards and commissions, let's ask them to come in at maybe our first meeting in September, and we can discuss that. And
Yeah, I
If
mean, that should be a
possible,
conservation, I mean, that should be a cemetery commission
Sure.
initiative.
we'll invite them in, and maybe even invite Connie in at the same time. See if we're gonna work together to come up with a proposal. It's a, you know,
Absolutely.
like we saw, there's a lot of history up there. There's some great parts, and there's some parts that could get some,
Just in the back corner is looking a little rough.
right, so.
You know, the door on the, I can't remember what you call it, the vault,
The crypt,
crypt, thank you. Yeah.
it's stuck open.
Yeah, and I actually had spoken with Connie about that years back, and, you know, she said, that's a hand-forged door, don't do anything about it. I mean, I personally don't like the idea that it's kind of wedged open.
At least it can't shut.
I know, but still, it seems to me like an invitation for trouble to have that.
Sounds like a bad movie.
Yeah.
Maybe really want to stay away from that. But bad juju.
But again, that's, I guess, cemetery and historic, the two of them.
So there's potential. We have the Mill Pond,
Mhm.
and so.
Yeah.
Possible
no,
Cumberlands, possible
I mean,
cemetery.
the good thing about CPA is that it is very broadly interpreted and broadly applied.
Yeah. I can report, we actually have another meeting, this week at housing, but right now we have nothing coming forward.
Yeah, because we're still short on our percentage for housing,
Not even
despite
close.
the
Yeah,
annual invitation for projects.
sure.
But, all right,
Great.
very good.
And,
That will do it for tonight.
actually, why don't we just quickly, Bob mentioned the fact that, through the hard work of the town accountant, we got the first certification of free cash in the state, and Hampden came back at just under 909,000. So, which is a pretty good number. For those who recall Cliff's conversation a couple weeks ago, I think definitely some good efforts on his part, and working with the state and with the financial team of the town hall. That'll give us some options at the fall town meeting with the consultation with advisory at that, so.
Cliff and his crew deserve a lot of credit for getting that done. This is the earliest certification that I remember ever seeing.
August 1st was always a good date, and here we are, a week before, bless you.
Yeah, not to mention that, it's a tremendous number.
Sure.
It's much, much more than I think any of us anticipated.
I certainly hope that's increased revenues. I think we
Well, I was
talked
gonna
about the
say-
fact that excise commitments were good, things like that. We're starting to see projects coming in, like the dump project, things like, landfill project. So other revenue streams to offset, property taxes is always good.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see what the breakdown is of that 900, and, how much is excess revenue versus, unexpended budget.
Which, you can say that's something, but it also shows that the different departments do a good job of managing their money.
I don't
They
think
plan for the worst.
much of it's unexpended budget.
No, but they plan for the worst, and they hold the line if they can. So that's good.
The end of
I
the
know,
year transfer.
I know advisory clerical, we got all your money back, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So anyway, that's excellent news for the town.
Sure is.
That's gonna give us some fantastic flexibility in the next couple of years.
All right, quickly, while you're here then, not to quick jump around, but special town meeting date. When Doug's here, we're talking about the budget, we're talking about things like that. Do we have a thought for, obviously typically it's the last Monday in October.
I see the
Yeah,
social
we have a
calendar.
You're calling home now?
No, I look at
Okay,
myself,
just
well, I
checking.
don't do anything without Mrs.
The last Monday in
Davenport's
October is the 30th,
Right, which is not,
not the 31st.
no, I know that, so, but
30th.
we had hesitation, was it last year or the year before?
I think
Yeah,
that
we
was last
bounced
year.
into it, yeah. I really don't care, I don't.
Halloween is the next day.
Yeah,
We
no, I'm
could show
thinking
up in
no, the
See
thing
if
we
anybody
always,
notices.
Doug, the thing we always run into is the 2-week posting thing, because we have
Right.
Columbus Day typically 2 weeks ahead,
Yeah,
or Indigenous, whatever it's called.
The 16th is 2 weeks ahead of the 30th.
Right, so we
So
could do
we're
it
good.
that way, which still give us,
but we also try to be mindful of the people who go away for the winter, and we don't wanna push it too far into the
Right.
fall. I mean, 30th, certainly should be fine. I don't know any reason why it wouldn't be.
no, I wouldn't.
Um,
Gives us enough time to get the notice out to different departments for our emergency applications to the
yeah,
fall town meeting.
yeah.
Right.
Which actually reminds me of one other issue, which is the capital items that the school had
Mhm.
brought up in their initial assessment letter to us.
Right.
We had had discussions with them, and we made the commitment that we would reconsider those separately from the operating budget. So I think it's incumbent on us to go back to the district and say, do you want to present any capital projects for the special? Now, I know it's out of the ordinary for us, but that assessment, whole budget and assessment is not ordinary.
But I think we want to be consistent with Wilbraham as well, which again, now dovetails in another part, kind of in our agenda. Conversations with Nick Bro. We'd like to have a meeting with the Wilbraham Board of Selectmen, talk about interests that the two towns have in common. This could be something we could discuss with them as well, if we want to present a united front for these capital requests. I think, Don, you had worked on that in the budget time, so, because we had the concerns.
We would definitely have to coordinate that with
Yeah.
Wilbraham.
Yeah, so, all right, so.
But we did make that commitment to the district. So
Okay.
I mean, I would like to
We'll
bring
put that
up.
on the tentative list we have of warrant articles for the fall. We have a motion to set the date for the special fall town meeting for October 30th.
We'll move, we set the special town meeting to October 30th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bob, you'll put that note out, please, thank you.
I'll put this right in here now.
Beam it to your phone, there we go,
I'll
yeah.
beam it to Mrs. Davenport.
You're on your own that night,
That
sorry.
way there'll be no trouble.
Yep. So in that vein about the Wilbraham Select Board, they're looking at either July 31st or August 8th. 31st would be a typical Monday for us, neither board is meeting, but we keep kind of on our Monday thing. How does the board feel about meeting with Wilbraham on the 31st?
Meeting with Wilbraham?
Wilbraham Board, Select Board,
Meeting with Wilbraham.
yeah,
Okay, I thought you said meeting Wilbraham.
that's a meeting with Wilbraham,
With-
and we will, last time we did this, Craig, you were on the board, I think we went over
We went
to their
over
thing. So maybe we can extend an invitation for them to come visit us next
week.
Monday for topics of mutual interest to both towns.
Nick's message was an invitation from them,
Yeah, well,
so I could counter with an invitation.
right, we met with you last time,
See you and raise you.
yeah, so. Okay, board happy with 31st?
Of July?
Yes, next Monday. Checking again?
No, I just checking.
We gotta make sure, we set a summer schedule, we gotta make sure we're not away that weekend, right?
Yeah, that's fine, that's good.
You good with that?
31st.
Oh, okay.
We'll make it short.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's just their thing.
You know,
Besides signing the
Sunday,
warrant,
yes.
I mean, that's what we'll do as part
We
of our
could do
normal.
July 31st.
Okay. So Bob, we're going to extend an invitation to Wilbraham to join us here, 6 o'clock on the 31st.
Okay,
And the agenda will just be,
that doesn't involve advisory, so unless you have anything else for me.
no.
would we like to invite advisory?
Thank you, Doug.
Do we,
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
we're probably going to have to meet upstairs, right? Can't meet in here.
Why?
If we had the Wilbraham Select Board.
There's 3 of them. There's 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Figure it out.
I mean, if they agree to it, I mean,
Yeah,
for
Nick.
purposes of the agenda, we may
That's
as well.
fine. That was upstairs. Okay, that was the community preservation. Now the fire station capital plan. So the fire department obviously heard about our plan to sell the fire station, so now they're here. Hi, Pat. Again with fancy shirts.
Embroidery looks good.
I know it looks good. Yeah.
The Selectmen.
What? Oh, it's like that. Yeah. Get the one left from Vinnie.
What's the capital plan?
They're doing a capital job, aren't they? So,
Can we agree to
gentlemen,
set a
we keep
schedule?
kicking this around, but we don't seem to have a definition. Our problem is, where are we going with the fire department? And that seems to be the whole thing. If it was no ambulance in the question, honestly, I think we'd be building 2 bays on the side, a little more training room in the back, and we'd be done, in my opinion. You know, because we wouldn't be thinking about, 24/7 at this point, you know, for fire, for EMS service. But then it brings the other question, as Craig said before, but are we thinking about fire as 24/7? Are we gonna have 3 shifts ever? Another question, what does the town expect from their fire department?
Right.
They're used to good service. Would 24/7 give us better service? What are we not doing now that 24/7 would do for us?
You think from a fire component, or if you're looking at combined?
Just right now, fire component.
Well, as we know, having having our full-timers on first shift has been a huge plus, huge asset.
Right.
You know, for the whole reason we did that was people aren't around during the day as much.
Right.
So you have more people are working out of town, but more people are back into home, you know, from the 5 o'clock on or 6 o'clock on. So, you know, during the day was always been our weakest exposure. So I think having the full-time folks there Monday through Friday has been a huge benefit. Certainly from the fire side, and obviously we've been doing, well, 65-75% of our calls are medical in total anyways, that we've got our day shift there, responding to.
What, now, when you go on a medical call, or medical assist, exactly what do you do?
Initiate patient care.
So, during the day, our off hours are just brief
During
summary.
the day.
So during the day, we act as EMTs. We're operating at the EMT level because there's an EMT there. So if action gets there first, we'll just assist them, carry a bag, treat the patient if it's critical. If action goes out, and then we're the first there, we'll be the primary provider till the ambulance comes in. So then we can enact our EMT skills. So if we need to give a breathing treatment or administer, a few of the medications that we do carry, glucose, Narcan, epinephrine.
Certainly, yeah.
There's a few of those that we can deliver to. So basically, we're just another team in the role of assisting, and a lot of times you don't need everyone, but it's just nice, you have to, we don't let patients walk, so you're stair chairing down the second floor, there's bags, there's a lot of information to gather, so just trying to accommodate action, and then when they are coming from, or a mutual aid is coming, then that's when we take the primary role until they get, but
Till they get there.
yeah, then we hand off care to the higher. And then back to the other question, so like we say, what would a 24-hour do? So, response time, our gaps right now, I would say are 4 p.m. to about 6 p.m. and then 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. There's times where it's 15, 20 minutes before there's a truck arriving. It's just a hard time of the day and a hard time to get people, so that's one thing we've been tracking is a lot of times it's just a smell and a bell call, alarm's going off, but that still isn't pleasant when people are waiting and there's an alarm ringing, and it just needs us to look at it and reset, so.
Looking at your hours of operation and tracking calls, is there a need to change the hours? When you say the 4 to 6 is a concern, right now you're staffing here to here, would shifting an hour, I say, I don't see any calls in the first hour, but there are calls after we close. Should we change our hours of operation?
Yeah, I think we're kind of looking at that now to see if that
Okay.
is.
I mean, the most efficient coverage with 8 hours, and where is it? Don, we've had this on the agenda now since you were a child,
Right.
So, but it does go back to what the mission is, what the purpose, the whole purpose is, and the ambulance part as well. Is there a way to split it? Is there a way to say this is a phase A, phase B kind of thing?
I think, well, you know where I am on it, and I think we should address the safety issues, some we've already addressed, and I think we need to address protecting the envelope of the building. And I think that I believe one of the things we got was about $400,000 to, do the masonry work, gutter work, and that type of thing. Replace the furnace, the duct work is bad there. I think you get two heating things hanging from the ceiling that need to replace that type of thing. I think we need to do that. And I think we could do something by putting a small addition on the back for the decon thing, small type of building.
But that doesn't address the spacing issue.
Well, the spacing issue is you get rid of don't get rid of, but you,
change out the bay on the right.
Huh?
Change out the bay on the right.
You take the antique fire engine and store it someplace else in town. And that opens up part there, and the ambulance, we get rid of the ambulance. They have rescue one that they respond to. They don't you don't respond in the ambulance, right? You respond to rescue one.
Correct.
Right.
But you still have the two major.
So then you have a whole bay that you can then, that empties out one bay, and that whole bay can be used to made into storage area or equipment area, or take the firefighting equipment, make a locker room type situation there.
I don't
But I
think
thought
that
that-
addresses the space around the trucks. though.
Right,
The
that's right.
apparatus
Still
It does,
think
is
because
right.
it takes it off the walls there. Right now, when you get dressed to go into a fire, it's on the wall next to the fire.
Right, all our gear is against the outside walls.
Against the outside wall,
Right.
right? So if that bay was empty, you could make that into a gear storage, you could have the gear, make it like a locker room there,
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly,
right? You can make a locker room there, okay? And so then that would take it off the walls around the apparatus, the larger apparatus.
I think another unintended consequence that happened when we put in our pilot vent, the venting system, which has been huge, that's been a great thing, is now, even if the gear wasn't there, the way it's set up, there's so little room between the truck and the wall, forget the gear for a second, is an absolute, very difficult to get around, because what happens, that thing comes back, there's no room there for that to move at all, so it's coming back, and it's a hazard, that alone itself is
What
a
about
hazard.
door heights and widths too with new apparatus?
Correct, so, which you can't change that by removing the gear, the room, the bay is the bay. Just backing up even the rescue into that far right bay, there's probably, 3 inches on each side?
Yeah,
If you're lucky, so it's an overall spatial issue. I mean, there's certain things you can do to make part of it better, but.
So do we need 2 bays or 1?
Well, that's what I was saying, replacing that bay on the right with a new double bay, which allows the older double bay to be the smaller apparatus. Your rescue 1 or whatever in there
2 bays on
with
the right.
plenty of space, and now 2 larger bays to the right, which gives you the full separation to the right. And maybe still, you keep the apparatus in the bays to the left, because your rescue 1 truck isn't the width of your tanker or anything
No,
like that.
no,
Right.
it's a regular F350
Right.
type.
So they go in the original bays, plenty of separation around them. 2 bigger bays to the right, built for the bigger trucks.
Right.
With space there. But I got into, my concern about the costing they said in the thing, I'm like, it just didn't seem, obviously the appurtenances in a fire station are different than the highway garage.
Right.
I just didn't see them being 10 times the cost.
No, and I don't think it's a stretch to say, when they put together their square footage numbers, they were ultra conservative. They figured every worst scenario, so they are high. And you do the math, those numbers are, in my opinion, extremely high. When you start to compare that to other towns, even if you look at Munson, what they're coming in at, it's nowhere near per
Yeah,
square
they're
foot.
they're doing a $6 million for a whole new.
For a whole new, yes.
Right,
everything.
right. Now, albeit on theirs, they went, from what I understand, it was bare bones just to get them in as much square footage as they can with minimal amount of expenditures. But still, it is a lot of bang for the buck, if you kind of use that as an example. So I think what's been thrown out so far, is a good start, but me personally, I don't think we have found the perfect or anywhere close for the amount of money that's being looked at and thrown out now for what we're getting. That would really be the best design. I think that there's a better design out there, which I don't think we've all seen yet, as far as addressing the space, the decon, meeting areas, and just overall, abating the stuff up there that shouldn't be up there. It's just getting basic, a kitchen, nothing fancy, but just basic, the bathrooms addressed,
Well, I think part of the issue is, and Don touched on this before, is you've got to keep the operation running while you're doing this. You can't just level it, no, we're gonna start from scratch, and then 18 months later, we have a fire station.
Right.
What have we done for the 18 months?
Sure.
At least if you did something with the side, your guts are still up and running, and your operation is still good.
Oh, yeah.
Like you say, Don said,
Right.
okay, we're gonna park the non-needed stuff somewhere else. And then keep the operation running with the 2 major bays. And then maybe,
Sure, certainly the concept of adding on to the right of it, which doesn't have a tremendous impact at that point on the rest,
right,
is a plus.
Yeah.
Certainly, you could do things, but, I personally think, at least 2 full new bays would be, at minimum probably necessary, which like I talked about on the right. And we've loosely looked at the space and all that, there should be enough room
part of
to
his
do
plan showed like extending to the back, okay, here's the meeting room, here's
Right,
potential,
right,
whatever,
right.
right.
I think where individual components may or may not go will be flushed out eventually, but just the concept of, to your point, is what is the point, what is the direction?
Right.
What kind of space, we're not, no design anywhere is talking about adding, flex space of thousands of square feet that have no purpose, not at all. I mean, there's, we've all been up there.
Well, people are concerned
Mhm.
that, and we've heard this type of thing, look what we did with the police station, and then 5 years later, oh, dispatch isn't there. I got that, but to be honest, and Don and Craig and I have been through the place, dispatch represented some of the operation, but in terms of space, it really didn't take away a lot of space of it. The operation police station, meeting rooms, training room is still there.
Right.
Officer
Yeah.
conferences.
Right. So,
But you still need those
right,
components.
I mean, okay, this, console isn't manned, but in terms of square footage, we didn't lose a lot of square footage by not having that there.
Right.
So the building would have pretty much been the same size no matter what. I guess, if we're not answering the full question, if we looked at this option A, B, C, if we had as many letters as the school planning department had, but if we looked at the plan to the right, and then down the road, would we still have expansion possibilities with this plan?
Mhm.
Have we, backed ourselves into a corner so much, if you do this, you'll never be able to take a wall down again? And I don't think so, but,
Right.
we still have always had the ability to go out the back towards
Highway.
highway.
Yep, and to the right, which we
Well, if
exercise
you do
that
this, and then
once.
if you went down the full length of the building,
Right.
you've got a lot of room. If we're talking putting the two major trucks to the right,
Mhm.
you've got a ton of room behind them if you even it off of the building, and I think we saw that
Right.
in his last sketch. Was that the full 3,000 something feet he was talking about with the,
Remember, without
Yeah.
looking at it.
so. But again, come back, I think Craig made the point, we can't keep kicking this down.
Well-
We've gotta come to the town with something.
I think I made the point of saying, I think maybe we take this opportunity now to redefine what we're doing with the fire department. What's the future look like? Are we being forward thinking for the next 20 years? And I'm pretty sure everybody's aware that, EMS is now gonna be the driving factor in most municipalities. Fire is gonna take a secondary role. So are we building a building for something that's gonna change down the road? Do we build it for a new operation in town? Should we consider now looking into going into the EMS business instead of the full-time fire business? Those are all conversations I think we need to nail down before we can decide what we're adding onto a building.
And that's why we tried doing the survey with the townspeople. We got some results back, but I question if that was even a full buy-in by, the people who came to a meeting.
Mhm.
And but we saw 30, 40 people in a town of 5,000. People, if we passed the EMS department, Don, you estimated what, $1,000, sorry, $1 million? Obviously, some of that's offset by revenue, but the expenditure is there.
Yeah, expenditures there, and
And
then
30 people
you
are-
have the expenditures, and you have not only payroll, but you have the benefits, and you have the,
Which are theoretically offset by revenue coming back from billing. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
obviously, most of the municipalities that we know around here don't do it for free. In fact, Pat, how many ambulances are you guys running at Wareham now?
2 primary, 1 reserve, and a fly car.
And I've heard possibility of getting another one. I heard East Long Meadow's looking at picking up another one. And they're running 3 or 4 now.
I think the key factor is you guys aren't losing money on ambulance service, right? I don't think other municipalities are losing money. I think
No,
they're all in the
Right.
black.
Right.
So, we just saw the reports come in from Action today. 1.9 million, the revenue from Hampden.
Yeah.
no. 511,000.
So gross or net?
No, total revenues were 1.9 million.
I know, but they only collected 511,000.
But I think it was 344 from us, right? Or 354.
So if you have 354, you're paying $1 million for personnel, you're losing $600,000.
I know they were offsetting, they were billing and collecting. I didn't think it was that much of a hit. I thought, if they're billing out at 1.9, then they have to take okay, I'm only gonna pay you this much out of it. Isn't Medicare the worst?
Yeah, Medicare's the,
But I didn't think it was that much of a hit.
well, you got, are here. So they build out at, if I can get this up here. That's the wrong one. Okay, bear with me,
Want a mouse?
bear with me, I don't want to know. Where's this one here? Revenue report.
But it's the difference between a two-bedroom house and a four-bedroom house, basically, you know, if we're going that direction.
While Don's looking that up, and me elaborate a little bit more than I.
They build out at, they had 686, transports. They build out 2,897,000. They got back, they had a write-off 726,000. They got paid 511,000. They wrote off another 66,000. They got paid, so they got 511,000 plus our 353,000, which would be 800 and something thousand.
They
So
said they built out 2.8 million.
they did. They built 2 point.
Where's the rest going?
Yeah, right, where's
The
the other
insurance
million?
company, the insurance company, the insurance company.
No, you said they wrote off 700, but what was the insurance, so the insurance company paid out?
The contract allowed, the insurance allowed, the gross charges were gross charges were 2.8 million.
Yep.
Okay, the contracted allowances were 2.1 million, so they had to write off 2.1 million because the insurance didn't pay them. The contract said you only get X number of
Or
dollars.
they just
No,
build
no,
too
no.
high, they just build too much.
There's that.
No,
aspect of it.
Right, or they just reduce it.
right, so the allowance was
Right.
Try to get
2.1.
it.
Okay.
2.1, so they wrote off the 700.
Okay,
Right,
so they go, so they get, so now they get 729,000.
No, it's the other way around. No, they got 2.1 because they wrote off 700.
No, no, the contract allowance is 2.1 million.
Right, that's the
The
allowance.
net charges were 729,000. The revenue, then they had revenue adjustments of $11. And then payments, this is the total payments they received was 511,000. This is the same word, let me tell from experience of a pharmacy, as a pharmacist. We bill an insurance company $100 for your prescription. They pay us $20, because that's the contract price.
Mhm.
And you pay a $10 copay. So, that's all right, the contract. Now, you don't have to sign a contract with the insurance company, but then they won't pay any, then you get nothing.
So who's paying that?
Huh?
Who's paying the rest of the?
Nobody's paying it. They don't get it, they just write it up.
Write it
Yeah,
up.
well, you see, you get your bills from your medical doctor or from the hospital or something. They say, $200,000 for your operation. We paid the hospital $10,000.
Yeah, it's like you pick up Eloquist, it's supposed to
That's
be
it.
$300, but you're paying $80. Right.
Are they billing the remainder then to the customer?
No, because if they have balance billing, they can't bill the remaining to the customer.
In
So-
theory, that's not supposed to happen,
Right, it's,
but I think to.
But so the customer, they don't. I do this, I did this for 20 years. You don't balance bill. What you do is, there's deductibles. So that insurance company, that person may have a $5,000 deductible or $1,000 deductible, they can bill that. They may have a copay, they can bill that. That's the 511,000 that they collected.
Mhm.
So my point being is, then we paid them 353,000. So if you take the 353 away, our town only gets, let's say in that case, 511,000,
Mhm.
right? And we're paying X number of dollars for, 12 guys, full-time people, because you need 3 or 4 shifts, weekends and all that kind of stuff. An ambulance, liability, benefits, etc. So a town like ours, it doesn't pay. Now, Wilbraham does all right because they have a ton of nursing homes over there. And the same thing with East Long Meadow.
Mhm.
That's how they survive. One of the reasons these guys Action survive is because they go to 34 Main Street almost every single day. you know, and you got a lot of nursing homes. And your ambulance service has been at it for how many years?
A few.
Yeah. So, it's a big bite for the town. No, the town man will say, yeah, fine, that's what we want.
My concern is, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. I feel we can offer a cheaper service to the residents by offering a municipal service to the town. Because the rates that Action charges to the end user are double of what a municipality charges. Mileage and then ALS or BLS.
Not actually, there's a report.
Okay, it's maybe 2/3 more actually.
There's a report, and I'll have to dig it out for you, that was just released by the Healthcare Commission, that said that municipalities bill almost twice as much as independent contractor.
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
I mean, I don't want to tell things, but I had a relative brought to Bay State for $6,000. And I think when I called around different towns, the charge for East Long Meadow or Wilbraham was around $2,200.
Yeah, well, maybe it is.
You know, no, again, now keep in mind, that's what they built.
That's what they bill,
They're not
that's
gonna
what they get
expect-
paid.
No, they got paid $3,000.
Right,
Right.
then they gotta pay.
I mean, even still, I mean, it's double, you know, double the cost of what a municipality is.
Well, like my dad
But
just
if-
said,
but-
municipalities
but-
don't have to make a profit.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay, so, but what you're talking about is, and this is a discussion for another time, but
Right.
what you're talking about is hiring 9 additional people at least, 9 to 10 additional people at least. Benefits, retirement, everything else, and an ambulance. I mean, certainly the one that they have isn't gonna be able to service 600 calls, you know? It's an expensive proposition, though maybe the town would wanna do that, I don't know.
There's a part of it too that, you know, you just don't start an ambulance service day 2, 24/7 paramedic. There's a gradual.
There's a bill, that was my point about Wilbraham, they've been at it for years.
Exactly, so, you know, we've sort of had everything, groundwork laid out with the department over the years. You know, the first thing is getting a bunch of us trained to EMTs, doing the fly car with the whole gap time with the AMR and the extended period and doing that. And, you know, we had the opportunity of getting this ambulance several years ago where, you know, the possible kind of direction would be us to augment, supply, backup, whatever you want to call it, but to either you start it or you don't. I mean, the whole thing is you walk into it. So we do have, you know, we've talked about this, and we have people here Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, you know, so you start at the BLS level. We're at the BLS level now. We have the fly cards, BLS. So we would be BLS. You wouldn't be ALS. I mean, I think it's, Pat, you know, it's like 9, 12 months. It's almost a year. You have to be BLS before they'll let you be ALS. So you gradually work into that whole sort of progression anyway. So, you know, we're at that point where that is the next step. If we're going to do anything, would be to utilize, remember, we have Action. We have them for another, what? Year. So, I mean, that is the time, you know, we've talked about being possibly a backup to Action. Once again, or a call, you need 2 ambulances, okay?
But part of the startup thing, and this goes back to the thing, we have a for-profit company doing it now. If we were doing it, shouldn't we be able to do it for the same money they are? I mean, they're not doing it to lose money. And we throw in the extra $300,000 to help offset, and in a couple of years, we've gotten a rebate because they were able to kick money back. It would seem like if they're not doing it at a loss, why can't we do it for that money? Even if you said, okay, we may have to throw the 300 in, yes.
But we're doing
then
that now anyways.
But we're controlling it at that point.
Right.
We're working for ourselves.
The oversight is there.
The oversight is.
So,
Right.
but as Donna said, yes, but they've already paid their startup costs. That's the difference. They bought the ambulance, they've got the training. And that would be the part that would be amortized, if you will, if the town started it. Because there's a certain, you know, you gotta get a new thing.
Sure.
That's not coming for free.
Then we gotta hire a bunch of new people who
all being
But-
equal, if we owned
Most
an
fire
ambulance, if we had the
departments can't
people.
hire
Yeah, we could.
anybody now as it is.
Right.
My initial thought was, use the year that we have now do we look into transitioning the fire department to a full-time EMS and have them do the backup service? Monday through Friday, 8 AM to 4 PM. You know, we're not hiring additional people, we're using our trained professionals now to do what they,
And we're not taking away from the calls.
we're not taking away from the
Action
calls.
is still our
Action will still be the
ambulance.
primary,
Right.
they're contracted to be 24/7, 365 ALS service. When they're out of town or on a call, and there's a need for a secondary, we have one within town lines, because yes, Action will send an ambulance if they have an available unit as a backup, but a lot of times it's not within town lines.
So what are you saying, you want us to go to a 24 operation?
No, I didn't say 24.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a Monday through Friday, 8 AM to 4 PM,
Which is what we have now.
was what we have now, but they would run a full-time EMS. To see if that is the area where we could progress, you know,
Well,
Mark
okay,
just said that their next step is, that's the next logical step, you know.
which is more personnel.
I mean, that's a once again, there's probably. there's
Right,
many
'cause I mean,
ways
right
to
now-
go about
many
this,
different-
Right now.
Right, right.
Because we have 3 people there, but if a fire call comes in, they drop the EMS, jacket and go off on a fire call.
Yeah, I mean, you typically handle the call that's coming in that you're dealing with.
Right, but I mean, the primary job is fireman.
Mhm.
Right. If you're saying we're gonna be full-time backup for EMS, that is almost a different set of people. Because you still have to have the fire people available to work for fire.
Well, if
In my mind.
there's 3 people there, you run two of the ambulance or EMS, you have 1 full-timer in-house, so you're either A, relying on a call firefighter for the second one to run a truck, or you're hiring a full-time spot for 4, I guess, instead of 3.
Possibly, because I mean, the call availability during working time is pretty slim, I got.
How's that been?
We're lucky we have a bunch of college kids and, people around like at this current time, but
During the summer.
years ago, it fluctuates
Right.
year to year.
Yeah.
Right now, we're very good. We have a lot of people, a lot of young people.
I mean, we are technically
the
the
force
oversight of the
that
fire
might-
department, maybe we should be on call. 3 of us,
You're the 10
Sure.
right now for the laser fish, you haven't got time.
fire calls.
There is a
Sure, we'll be there
comparison,
quickly.
there's a comparison with municipal electric companies versus private companies. Private companies are consistently more expensive across the state. Munis are cheaper, but to convert to muni would be so expensive now. Most of the munis have capital costs that were paid for sometimes 100 years ago, like Holyoke.
Or Chicopee, or.
I guess
Yeah, check.
my main point of pursuing this is I'm worried about the resident who's gotta pay $6,000 for an ambulance ride. You know, they're paying $69 a mileage currently, $4,800 for ALS service, where you look around, all the municipalities are charging half of that right now.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about the person who's got a call. And the
And
people
have no insurance.
Well, they have insurance. Like I have cases that I know of where they've gotten billed exorbitant amounts of money for just a ride to the hospital. And those are the people I'm fighting for right now, because they're paying an arm and a leg for something that if Action was out of town and we called for mutual aid, they'd get a Wilbraham or East Long Meadow and pay half the price. So that's my concern.
And what, it's fine. We're not gonna solve it tonight.
No, but I mean, we
good
gotta keep
discussion.
talking about it, or we're just gonna be talking ad infinitum, or ad nauseum, I think is
Right.
the other word. I think Craig has a possible path there, because what you're talking about doesn't involve some of the, I wanna say, the overhead that other plans there, we're not talking about sleeping situation, we're not talking about.
We're not talking about turnkey operation.
Right, so, and we're talking if it's BLS coverage, we have an ambulance that is certified, right?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep.
Bless you.
We've had it, it's been there, it's been certified for.
Well, no, we have
For
new
years.
certificates, it's all done, I know
Yep.
Donna's been,
Yep.
on top of questioning, okay, we got the thing back
Yep.
from Boston.
Right.
If we had another person, that answers my concern about being able to respond to fire and EMS. Putting another person on based on our current costs, like, 60,000 a year, roughly. Right, Pat, yeah,
Yeah, a little bit more with,
bennies and stuff like that, but
Right.
whichever, yeah. So, where do we go? Are we just gonna talk about it? We're gonna actually make an action plan?
I guess, I
Okay,
would,
let's see what, let's cost it out and see what we're talking about here.
what can we do in the meantime? Like, what can we provide, or what would you like us to?
Times of stuff, like, exactly, I'm thinking what's,
My question would be, can you staff it? First off, that's one thing. Talking about getting a person, can you staff it? Right now, I know we don't have the third full-time person, but I think your
but
plan
we're
by
filling,
doing
the
it,
position's filled.
which I think is a great plan, because it
Right.
brings experience to the people
Right,
coming
that's
in.
been a big
Yeah.
benefit doing it that way. Right.
Craig, do you think this is something we should, let's get a cost in, you know, knowing where we are for the fall, let's bring it forward and see if we wanna fund it.
Define your definition of funding, what,
Wanna add that
What's your
fourth person, add a
add a
fourth person.
fourth person, that's what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Would we wanna do it as a full timer, or would you do it as a per diem person, again, like you have that third spot right now? Would that,
Just, I think the per diem actually charges less than the full timer,
Right,
right?
Again,
again,
no
good
benefits.
questions,
But I would-
that's,
I would-
Yeah, but if you have
I would fund
a,
it,
if you
I
have a
would fund it
per,
from
if you have a per
full-time.
diem guy, then you don't have someone there. Cause a per diem guy only does it when you call him in, so you call him in every day.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean per diem, I mean, of the three people there now, two are full timers and the third is a rotating position,
correct.
right?
I would still.
But is that
fund it.
still per diem, or is that, how are they getting, how is that falling the payroll?
They're up the salary.
They're still off that salary, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay. So it's paid against the salary line.
Right.
So it's,
I would
okay.
just fund a fourth person at that line, but to expand. I think it's something we should pursue.
I'd like to see the numbers, I guess, is what you're saying, right?
Right,
And I would like to just, we can look at, if those hours are gonna be available, maybe we can figure something out with scheduling and we can come back.
again, same thing, I mean, I don't wanna
What
do
would it
this
look
as a
like?
futile exercise, of, hey, we did it, but there's no fourth person available to come in. And is there a place for that person, and is there something for that person to do, you know? You think, so you think,
'Cause I think we also
On
have
a
enough history
daily
by now to
basis-
kind of say when calls are.
on a daily basis,
Right.
do you think your ambulance service is going out pretty much once a day?
Once a day, I don't know, maybe, depends on the day, you can't ever predict.
Some days there's 6 calls,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
we've seen it.
I would say a few times a week, maybe.
All right, if we went that way, would you be using the ambulance or rescue one?
Well, if you want us to be a transport service, we can
It's,
transport.
it's the ambulance.
But you can only transport BLS.
Right.
So you still have to call someone else in to do an ALS.
Correct, which is no different from any BLS
Or
agent.
ALS intercept.
Right, they would just do an ALS intercept, just like Action was doing when Action was BLS.
Right.
No different, no different, if the call required that. So,
I think we should get some numbers in front of us.
Be okay with that.
Without taking, I'd like to see some numbers.
I think we have very good numbers. I think Action provides an excellent service at a really low price.
Not to the end user, this is my point.
Well, I guess, so you wanna create a million or $1.5 million operation.
I don't know if that's gonna be the number,
You wanna create a $500,000
I don't
operation.
know if that's the number. I wanna look into creating an operation which will cost more from the town, I don't know that.
Okay.
But I would like
But
to.
remember, when you do that, you have to create a billing agency.
Mhm.
You have to create a funding, a fee schedule. You have to create a collection agency. When the person doesn't pay, we're gonna be the ones who are gonna chase them to pay. So,
I think that's all that comes with the game.
I'm not sure, do you do that in-house or you job that out?
Wilbraham does have in-house, but most use Comstar, which is the generic.
right,
Comstar,
third party,
really limited.
right, right, I think it's what, 3%, something like that, it's a small percentage. You have a billing agency.
To
you
the
use-
overhead?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, right, so that whole part of it's taken care of.
All right.
but you have to hire someone to do
Oh,
that.
correct, right, right,
You have to have a contract with someone to do that.
Right,
Right.
but that's
But
not
that's a-
hiring, then you're not hiring a person to do it.
But you're getting a contract to do that. And then an outside agency, so if you're worried about a person in town whose bill was too much,
No, it's not. It's not to just address people
No.
without insurance.
It's not, yeah. All right, so
I don't understand
I'm
what
trying
that.
to, I'm trying to.
He was asking
figure out-
if I'm thinking he's asking me specifically if my thoughts are to address the people without insurance, and no. The cases I'm talking about are people who have good insurance that are paying an exorbitant amount.
Which I can.
Yeah, but that's their insurance problem.
No, it's the building that's being presented to the insurance company, and insurance companies, as you were saying, only paying this amount, and then the bill's getting sent to the customer.
Right, and under in action will tell you, if you allow us to deal with your insurance company, we can lower that bill.
Right, but then they still send the bill
Well, of course they send a
to
bill.
the customer.
Of course they send a bill. They have to bill
So-
for their services.
So then they're still charging $6,000 to the patient. Insurance companies covering a
So
portion.
what you're trying to accomplish is to have the town pick up the cost.
The town would not pick up the cost. We'd be able to offer the service at a lower price than what?
Yeah, but we're paying 12 guys to do that.
Okay. We're paying people to come in and work in our community with public safety, security, and what goes along with a municipal town is you will provide services to these people and have pride of working in the town. I'm not trying to argue with it, we
No.
don't see eye to eye on a lot of this stuff. I totally respect your opinion. I feel a little bit different than you do about it.
Yeah, I
And
know, I'm just, but
I'm thinking the elderly person at home who has insurance, whether it's Medicaid, Cigna, Blue Cross, whatever they have, is still getting charged a lot of money for a service that we can provide at a lower cost. We're paying peanuts right now for a for-profit company. I understand that's the nature of the game, but at some point that price is gonna go up. And I think that when that happens, we can offset what we're providing at a better dollar amount to the person that's gotta pay out of pocket, rather than, I guess, from the tax base wage. I'm completely saying this completely wrong right now.
yeah.
No, you're making the point, it's like, look, I'm not hiring Sullivan Landscaping to do the town yards.
Right.
When I have my highway department that's doing it for less money, that type of thing. I can take that service inside and do it cheaper. Like I said before, my dad said, municipalities don't have to turn a profit.
Right.
You know, so we don't have 60% built in for whatever. However, there's a startup cost associated with this whole thing we
And
have
that
to
is,
consider. That's kind of, yeah.
All right.
So going forward, what are we doing here though? Are we saying,
We're gonna get some numbers.
get some numbers, okay?
and we
Work
can
with-
facilitate
Pat,
our crew here.
right, please. All right. No commitment, let's get some numbers.
Get some numbers together. Fair
All
enough?
right.
Fair enough. I still would like to look at, in terms of back to the building.
You still
Back
don't
to
have
the
you
building?
still don't have an addition.
No, back to the building, I still think we're talking about, I like the plan to the right, I just don't like that number.
Just take that
Yeah,
one
I
day
don't-
out.
Right.
And then put two bays in there, and I mean, I cannot believe it's $6 million. I
I
don't care
know,
if you
I
talk
know.
to
No, it's-
Quinn or somebody like that, like,
No,
you know, I
Right.
don't care if it's a Butler building, you know, it's gotta be.
Can we find
Not
another
that bad.
half-built building like the highway department and just throw that over there?
Hold on, executive an idea on another Canadian one? Sure.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thanks, gentlemen. We have some one-day permits,
Permits,
many. And Pam understands what the board wants now. You have the names, why they're doing this, how old the birthday parties are, everything. Great.
Whose life they're celebrating.
That's awesome. Okay, she has 4 written here and
July 29th.
5 on the agenda.
4 on the agenda.
I do not.
July 29th, August 29th, August 20th, August 26th, September 9th.
Open the.
I know that, on the agenda, there's 5 days.
What?
On the agenda, there's 5 days.
July 29th, August 29th, which
August
isn't on
20th.
here.
August
It's not one
20th,
of these.
August 29th is not on this one.
so there is no August 29th?
What have you got in front of you?
Whatever's in the white yellow papers.
December,
Whatever.
What's
whatever
posted
those
online, you know,
Whatever
Pam.
those yellow papers say
What
are
do we
what
have, 2
need
months
to
to go?
be.
Is it 2 months to go, Don?
approved.
Is it 2 months to go?
2 months to.
It's less than 2 months.
July 29th, noon to midnight. Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill
Oh,
having two
slowly.
parties?
7/29, 8/20, 8/26, 9/9.
I guess that 829 doesn't exist then, does it, Pam?
All right.
There's 5, is there 5?
Yeah, there's 5 listed. Okay,
Sign
I
up, we
have
might need
a request for one-day permits, July 29th. Jack and Jill, August 20th, celebration of life. Saturday, August 26th, celebration of life. And Saturday, September 9th, for Jack and Jill,
They're having two parties?
every day.
Every day,
So moved.
12 to 12.
Jack and Jill are having two parties?
I think it was Jack and
So
Jill.
moved, so moved.
He moved it, you got
I'll
a second.
second.
All in favor?
Oh, God.
Thank you, Pam, great job,
Oh,
great
yeah,
job, Pam.
Never thought we'd get through
All
that.
right, entertain we'll go right to executive session and forget that last item,
What's the last item?
our ongoing discussion. Since we're kind of waiting for an answer from the other, sorry,
The other person
Which one's that?
still debating.
who did a special meeting.
Night.
For Chapin?
Yeah.
Oh, quickly, sorry about your report.
Okay.
These gotta get signed too. The Chapin Road signature.
Oh, we didn't vote.
No, the Chapin Road.
Let's just mention it. We have here a couple of conservation restrictions, the paperwork for what the board authorized. The 10th, or was the meeting before that? At a prior meeting in the past couple of
It was,
days.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was on the minutes. Yeah.
These are the, wow, just like 400 pages. Wow.
Voted no.
This week, we're doing training for laserfish. Monday and Tuesday, we have training on the system itself. Wednesday and Thursday, we have training on forms, how to create, how to automate some basic systems within each department. The extension of the Scantic Water District for 98 Scantic Road, cost estimate is here. $83.40.
And that's for the 98 Scantic Road.
98 Scantic Road.
It has PFAS.
Does the board agree to go forward on this?
Well, I think this was presented to the Water Commission. I think this is just an FYI, that this is what the cost is gonna be to hook up 98 Scantic Road, which had the positive PFAS testing above state minimal.
And we approved that out of
Out of ARPA.
ARPA,
This
so-
is just hey, this is what they're looking at for the cost.
Obviously, I have a concern about the content here. You
Yes.
guys are vetting that to make sure it's done.
Yes.
So,
So we're looking at roughly probably 10,000 at most to hook up a house. Sorry about that.
No.
So we only have one signed copy of this, Concom only signed one copy, I'm not sure.
They've left,
Yeah.
I believe. I could have
Yeah.
them come in tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe they should, I think,
Have you just got Judy and Ted?
no, they did, but they only signed one of them. Judy, Ted, John Cushman, and Greg D'Agostino.
Oh, okay.
I think they should sign both. It's only one signature.
What?
It's only one signature. Yeah, so. And this is strictly the
Chapin Road.
Chapin Road. We, as Don said before, the other one, off of South Road, we're waiting for more from Orpheum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you said.
So this one. Nope.
So we have hired an assistant, administrative assistant for the fire department. We'll bring her in to be introduced at your next meeting.
Who?
We also,
Jean.
Maria, she has extensive experience at the municipal level. And we interviewed 5 candidates, and both the chief Jane and myself agreed that this person was clearly the best candidate. Okay. We'll bring her in next meeting. All right. Also, we did interviews on the 18th, an interview on the 18th for administrative assistant for the Board of Selectmen Town Administrator. We will have a decision on that for your next meeting also. New audio system is here. Hasn't been set up yet, but it'll be set up for your next meeting. And lastly, the Granby Selectmen have approved the IMA for a shared
Maybe.
conservation agent and stormwater manager.
This week?
And we're going to have another session, joint session. Most of these sessions are overseen and coordinated by PVPC. And we're gonna look at a job description, which we have, and try and go forward. The town of Hampden will do 15 hours. Town of Granby is doing 20 hours. And we should be able to put together funding from both the Conservation Commission budget as well as stormwater budget. And depending upon the salary that we eventually arrive at, we may have to augment that at the fall meeting. But if we can make this work, it'll be a tremendous relief for the Conservation Commission and give the town the capacity that it needs to deal with stormwater and the management of stormwater. So, forward we go. That's the report.
Okay. Can we actually, Nicole, can you unmute and chat with us?
Hi there.
Hi there. So we have this one for 119. So we have a memorandum of understanding, and then this grant of conservation restriction.
Yes.
Okay. So.
And then, so there was one CR, that's CR 17170. And that's the one that required the signature by the select board, but the Conservation Commission didn't need to sign that one. And then there's another CR, that's CR 17247. And that's the one that the Conservation Commission also signed and also requires signature from the select board. So it's for two separate CRs.
Well, I think that's, yeah, I think that may be this thing here.
For which property? Can you say which property they're there?
Yeah, so it's all 119 Chapin Road. But it's the two separate parcels. So one's for 64 acres that the Concom is holding the CR on. The other is for 11 acres that Mass Audubon is holding the CR on.
Right, I think it was, I have this one here. That's grant of conservation restriction, probably 20 pages. And I have 4 copies of it, of which Concom only signed 1.
Yep.
So we're kind of like, we would have liked them to sign all the copies, so we could keep one for
Yeah.
one. So that's my point, that we'll have only one officially signed document. And when I give them 4 copies, you think they'd sign all 4.
And I asked Judy about it, and she said Kate told her to sign one and she'd make copies, but you want original documents.
You want to, yeah, making copy, no. All right, so we have 1 signed original, basically, that's all we have, all right. And then we have a little 2-page thing.
2 pages there.
Yeah, that is. signatured by, yep. Again, this is a little 2-page one that they signed, that only they signed.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing for us.
Yeah, and I did just want to clarify, I wasn't sure if maybe out of those 4 copies they gave you, if it was for the 2 separate CRs, because the select board would be needing to sign 2 separate CRs for this. So there should be a number at the top of the document. Or maybe not.
No, these were 4 identical copies. And then we have another one that one is the grantor is the Audubon Society.
Yeah,
And then we have the other one, the grantor is Al Joyce.
yes,
So I have 4 copies of the
Awesome.
Audubon one, of which
Yep.
they signed 1.
okay,
Then I have 2 copies, it looks like, of the Al Joyce one.
okay,
And I guess only we sign that one,
yes, yep.
right? I don't see a place for Concom.
No, just the select board for that.
No, that's
Okay.
it, so we just
All
sign
right.
this one.
All right,
So we sign both copies?
we all sign them, okay.
Paul Joyce, the Chapin Road one.
Yeah, this is,
This is Chapin, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that. And then they just have to be notarized, and I sent Bob the address that the hard copy of the signatures can be mailed to.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, there's a pile, good luck.
Thank you so much for that. I know it's been a whirlwind, so I appreciate you all signing.
All right, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just get a reply back from Sue Bonnell. They said, yes, they will be here on the 31st. So please, Wilbraham.
Yeah.
Okay, so please take care of posting that tomorrow. Okay. All right, is there any more business from before the board before we go into executive session? Any upcoming, quickly, Senior Center Building Committee approved the RFQ and that got mailed out today. I think Gary Wayner had a list of, I'm gonna say 7 or 8 different firms that are typically associated with senior centers. He was mailing it out to Bobby Grant, who's doing the work as the unofficial mail clerk of the committee. And spectrum discussion, we did hear back from the government rep, and Pam and Bob are coordinating, hopefully in attendance at an upcoming meeting. With any luck before Pam retires, so she'll actually meet this chap, right? So. And anything else, or I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
I move we go to executive session to conduct, strategy under section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with a union personnel regarding a grievance.
Second.
We won't go,
Oh, yeah, without a return to open
we'll
session.
continue.
All those in favor by name, John Flynn, aye.
Don Davenport, aye.
Craig Riverstone.
All right, thank you. Thank you all.